Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next interview in the series of Leaders Lead the Way. Today we have with us Dirk Maul. Dirk, hi there.
Hi.
Dirk, for those who don't know you, could you please explain who you are and what you do in Deutsche Telekom?
Yeah, who am I? So thanks, Shah, for inviting me for the interview. So I'm actually Dirk, as Shah already said. So I'm working now close to 25 years in Deutsche Telekom, and currently I'm sitting in a function within board area technology innovation, and there I'm responsible for access solutions, design, integrate, and deliver solutions to our markets for our mobile networks.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dirk. Dirk, to start off the interview, what we would like to ask you is your first time with the topic, your first contact with the topic of agility. How did you get in touch with the topic of agility, and what was your first impression?
Yeah, good. That's actually a long journey back, and so long, it's also not a couple of years ago. And actually, the starting point for me when I came into touch with agility was when I had a problem how to assign new tasks within my team. To be clear, I run a functional team where the people are sitting in many NatCos in many markets, so not everybody's sitting in Germany. I've got some people in Hungary and Czech, Greece and Netherlands, but also Germany. And yeah, so I got a new task and I was really in deep trouble because I did not know whom shall I assign the task, because we had a very stable but also strict structure within my team. And then I was somehow frustrated and I said, well, okay, how shall I approach this? And I came quite quickly to the conclusion I need to change the setup of my team. And that's where I got also first time in with agility in touch. I think we will talk later also about this a bit more in detail. And I was really happy because without having something in my mind, I took my time and really to write down what my issue was. You could name it a user story. I formulated a user story. But one important learning for me, I didn't have a solution already in my mind. I was really open-minded. And with that, I searched for some peers getting me some support. And in that sense, I got also in contact with agility. And if you really ask me what were my first impressions, reading into it a bit with books, article, talking to colleagues, I thought, well, it's not rocket science, actually. I thought, well, maybe only sometimes we are so strict in our processes and we tend to use our natural brain. And if you really, at least that's for me, if you read into the agility, you could even say, well, that's just normal thinking. Yeah, just use your brain and do whatever you think is reasonable.
Very practical approach. All right. Thanks, Dirk. So, that was the first time that you just mentioned. And what has happened since? What has happened in your area, for example, in terms of Agile, or what has changed for the teams in your area? What has changed for you?
Quite a lot, I have to say, really a lot. If I'm looking back now, so our transformation is now 3 to 4 years ago. If I compare the Dirk Maul from 2017 with the Dirk Maul in 2021, I think for me personally, lots of things, how I interface with my teams changed. But I think it's a positive change. I really have to say. If you ask me what has happened since, well, we started with a small transformation in a sub team of my organization, which was a team of roughly 15 people, where we really tried out the first practical examples, how agility could be applied to our working environment. And once we have seen that this is really working rather good, we thought about maybe it's worth now also to think about an approach for the bigger team. And a bigger team, if I'm talking about, we are in total for the access engineering community, roughly 60 people. And well, then you have already a bigger problem, because then you have to think about, okay, how do I reach out to these 60 people? And I was quite happy because I had the possibility to talk to some agile coaches within the company. So people who are within Deutsche Telekom, no externals. who know how the business runs in Deutsche Telekom. And they gave me a strong recommendation to use the setup of a pilot concept. And this was very interesting for me because with that, you could really use at the same time to focus, discuss the topics with a small team within the organization, but at the same time also reach out to the rest of the team so that nobody really felt left behind. We always had in this process also a clear focus, what we wanted to achieve. We set us also a date, a clear finishing date. We said after 10 months of doing this exercises in this pilot team to define a new setup of the organization. We want to finish and start to implement things. But in that whole journey over these 10, 11 months, we were very transparent, I have to say. And for me, one of the most beautiful things in that journey was actually that some team members approached me after that period and said, Dirk, we have never experienced such an open mindset if we were talking about reorganization, if we are talking about changing setups of the team. That's really unique. We have never experienced it. And this told me really that this was the right approach, actually.
Awesome. All right. So, Dick, you mentioned like the pilot setup that you mentioned. Could you give us like a few concrete things that you tried in this pilot setup? Like if you used a framework or did you try some concrete practices? What kind of what it entailed?
It was quite interesting because we began the whole story. We got, as said, some support from Agile coaches from DT, and they said to me, "Okay, Dirk, you first. You are somehow the sponsor of the activity, and you present your user story. You present what do you want to change and why. The why is really one of the central questions of everything. I think this." Again, this is very much connected to agility, but also if I want to explain to somebody what I want to do, I need to tell him also why, because only then he buys into the idea. And then the colleague who was coaching us told me, well, but after you have presented this, Dirk, you get back into the row and you are just a normal member of the team. And it was so difficult for me, I really have to say, to behave then not any longer as the manager in charge, but to be a simple, don't get me wrong on the word simple, but a normal team member. And it was quite funny. And we really practiced this a lot and said, sometimes I even said to the team, well, don't ask me, don't always look at me. I'm not the manager. I'm also just a normal team member. And it was very difficult for me not always to fall into the trap to act as a manager, but also vice versa. That was really interesting. Sometimes the team members in the pilot team said to me, hey, Dirk, you are the manager. You need to decide. I said, no, I'm not any longer the manager. We are one team. And so that's one thing we really practiced a lot throughout that journey, getting away from this hierarchy
Yep.
principles in the
Flattening the
discussions.
hierarchy.
Exactly. And if we took a decision, we always said we need to take it commonly. Yeah? Don't ask me now as Dirk to make the final decision. No, it's our decision. Yeah?
Yep. Fantastic. That sounds like, as you said, the why and flattening the hierarchy, everybody making decisions together. Really good. Really
But
good.
it's
Thank
so
you.
difficult. It's so difficult, Shah, I tell you. It's
I
not
believe
easy.
it.
It's easy to
Well, I'm
say,
not a
but
manager, so I can't say that. But I've just been a team member till now. But yeah, no, I believe you. Okay, but it is a good tip for our viewers if some of your colleagues are watching, for example. Okay, so we come to our next topic with this one. What were your sources of inspiration or support during this change, this whole process that you did? You mentioned some agile coaches. Would you like to, for example, name some names, or books, peer reviews, some agile academy, anything that gave you, that inspired you? Maybe you can name 3 things which helped you there.
Okay. The first and maybe very important thing for me was that I was participating in a company training which was called Change Advanced. And I think this was end of 2018, 2019, beginning 2019. It was a very compact format. So it took me over 10 days Actually, Florian was also joining that exercise, so he may also have a view on it. For me, this was really somehow a game changer because it gave me so much also for me personally being ready for a change. So you get a lot of reflections there also on your personal identity. So what and some things, especially we as managers, do just natively without thinking of it, but also without considering what is the potential impact to people we are talking to. So this gave me a lot, and I believe also that gave me also the ability to be ready for a change without being afraid to lose power and all these things what normally in the old style you connect to being a manager. So this was the one thing. The second thing, for sure, I had also for agility some inputs on sources like books or trainings, online trainings in the internet. I went also to some um, Barcamps which Deutsche Telekom organized to exchange with other people. So this was also of good use. But this was for me more or less only a side support, if I may say so, reading, because I do not believe too much in only about theory. The thing for me is agility. If you want to implement it, needs to work also in practice. And this is something what I appreciated most in that my journey since then, by the way, it didn't stop after this 10 months, continues still today, to exchange with people who have a decent same experience like me, who tried things out, who came out to the conclusion things didn't work really, we stopped it then. Really to have this exchange, this discussion with people who are more or less in the same situation like me and who have experiences. I think this is one of the utmost important things, that you talk also to people who have a practical experience and not only talking about the theory. I think there are thousands of people or millions of people who can talk about all these agile paradigms, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But to really get down to earth to implement agility, you need to talk also to people who have experience. And this was for me also maybe the most precious input impulse, talking to those people.
Perfect. You mentioned the bar camps. Actually, I remember we were together. That was my first time with this community in the bar camp. I was actually not even part of the community, I think, at that point.
Darmstadt.
In
Wasn't
Darmstadt,
Darmstadt,
exactly, in
mm-hmm.
Darmstadt, yes.
Cool
And
event.
I remember a lot of colleagues mention you there that, oh, Dirk is like this, a star manager or example manager when it comes to being a manager in agile teams. So I remember that.
Thanks.
Um, okay, so we're going to move on to the next topic, which is the untold stories. Is there a story you can share with us which could be an inspiration, a motivation, or even a warning for the audience?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot because there are so many stories I could share. I can fill a fireside chat in the evening, but we need to be on the point here. There is one story which is maybe a warning and attention to also others. It was quite funny. I told you I shared with you about how we approached the thing with this pilot team, which was really very good, and we had lots of energy in the team. But as I said, we set ourselves also a target, 10 months, and we said then we want to stop, discuss it, but then we want really to start implement it. And maybe this was also still on behalf of my old experience as a manager. Okay, we have solved the thing, now execute and deliver. And then we started in October to implement. We informed the whole team, so everybody was fair with it. And then we started in October. And what I didn't do is consider any inspect and adapt. And that's because I thought, okay, we have defined it, we have said it, we do it, execute. And then I was completely frustrated after 4 to 5 months. Once I looked again at the whole thing, I said, well, what did now change? Not really much. And it went somehow to silent. Yeah, the people, it was also before Christmas. Maybe people were also with thoughts already shopping and Christmas markets or whatever. At that time, we still were allowed to go for Christmas markets and drinking Glühwein. And what was missing is somehow, as I said, this inspect and adapt. And my advice or my experience would be, even you think that the thing is done, that you have everything solved, described, defined, written down, shared, informed, then only the journey starts, actually. And to be honest, I think now looking back also 4 years, once we have started this whole process, uh, the most easiest thing was to define the new theory. The most complicated part of it was implementing it, living it. Also, me as a manager. And that was quite nice because we came then back together with the pilot team after 6 months. We thought we had implemented. And I asked the team, hey, what's going on? Why don't we use now or do things what we have commonly defined? Yeah, we don't know, Dirk. There was simply no time. And that was the point for me where I said, okay, well, then we need to implement shorter review cycles for us and maybe also change. And this also included me, myself, as a manager, to change behavior. So, for example, by then we installed a bi-weekly backlog discussion with not with the whole team, but everybody who wants to join is invited. And we go week by week through all the topics and really give us discipline also, and always talk also in 3 months. Okay, how are we doing? Are we good? Do we need to change something? Do we need to adapt something? So for me, this was the biggest learning, and the warning I wanted to share is also, don't forget about inspect and adapt once you go for implementation. That's one of the most important things really to do.
That's sage advice. So would you, if let's say if you were to now change your team and go into a new team where there is no agility, nothing like that happening, and if you go like, okay, we should do something about this. So how would you handle the inspect and adapt, as you mentioned, thing? Would it be like the thing that you say, okay, we should right from the start put inspect and adapt feedback loops or whatever, something like that in place?
Yes,
Or
for
how would you
sure.
go about it?
I
Yeah.
would go directly immediately for it because you need to listen, to review. You need always to take the time to reflect, looking into the picture in the mirror, um, to understand, am I doing right? I think there's no bad or more worse thing than to develop for 5, 6 months in the wrong direction and then to identify this was the wrong track. So it's better to identify it after 2 weeks. That doesn't work really. So we need to follow a different route. And I would immediately implement it, if I'm honest.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. And with this, we come to our last section, Dirk, which is called On Your Radar. So, do you see any upcoming topics in your area where agility or the agile community, of which I'm part of, under whose umbrella we're doing this interview, where we could be beneficial, or agility in general? Do you see any upcoming topics? What would it be? Sorry.
100%, yes. First of all, maybe one thing I would like to share is I don't think that agility is the golden recipe for everything, for each and everything. That's not the case. And I think in some areas agility works well. In some other areas, it might not be the right tool set, if I may say so. But always, it's good from my point of view to look at it. Okay, do I think it makes sense to go for it? Yes or no? I'm 100% sure that implementing flexible or agile elements in our work helps to manage the work better, more transparent to the people, and also in a more flexible way. Yeah, because you are somehow not bound to structures which are partially 5 to 10 years old. Yeah? So you are much more flexible in assigning tasks, stopping tasks, and picking up new tasks. So in that sense, I definitely think that for our business, and okay, I'm in an engineering department, and there's so much new technologies up front coming there around the corner, which needs a lot of brave, good skilled, but also flexible people, experts, team managers, squad leads, whatsoever be it. And that's why I think definitely you always should consider, ask yourself, a team should ask themselves, okay, is agility an element or a style of work I want to implement? Do we think it helps us? And I personally think in case it really fits and you do it right, many people get also something out of it. Also, not only maybe the managers, but also the team players themselves. As said, because you create an environment where you have much more transparency. People understand the big question we discussed in the beginning, the big why, much better.
Mm.
Yeah, so they have an understanding why they have to put their heart blood on a certain subject, and not only because the Dirk tells them to do. So we behave, but we buy into the story. And I think there is also, and that was also, by the way, the feedback we got from the team. Not only that they were happy how we approached the thing, changing also our setup, but also at the end that they have now a better view what we are doing as a total team. And there is no excuse. And I go also back to the people and tell them, hey, no excuse. We have our Kanban board. We have our board where we track all the major activities. Everybody is invited to participate. And many people told me also, yeah, it's good. We just much more understand what's going on. So left and right, we have a bigger context of the whole activity. And that's why I say, yeah, agility needs to play also a role in the future. It will help us in many areas, maybe not in all areas, but in many areas to be much more flexible. But I believe also we need, and that's why I'm a strong believer also of your community, Shah, and what you're also participating in. We need also many good coaches, people who support organizations, teams on that journey, because if you try it completely on your own, you may fail because then you end up just in another structure, which is more or less the same as before. So in that sense, I also buy in very much, and I'm happy also that Deutsche Telekom invests so much in to have also agile coaches within the organization.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. So you would say, like, from our community specifically, coaching, if it's needed, you know where to contact us. Obviously, please do so. Anything else
Yep.
where we could benefit ACS or your department?
You have not immediately now, but one advice I would just like to pass over to you is what you should also always, as an agile community with coaches, agile coaches, keep in mind that you always keep contact also to the reality. Yeah, that you also join projects, maybe even yourself, where agility is implemented. Because as I said in the interview, there's a difference between theory and practice implementing
Yeah,
it. And I think also you as agile coaches need, for sure, you need to have also a strong understanding of the theory, but at the same time, you need also to know about what are the impediments if I go for agility in a team. And
definitely.
this is something I would also like to invite you to be part of these teams, also not only as an external consultant, but really as a man in the middle who knows what the pains could be also on that journey.
Definitely. Okay. Thank you, Dirk. Thank you. And with this, we come to the end of our interview. Thank you, Dirk. Do you have any last words? Anything you would like to say to our audience in the end?
Oh, I think I said already quite so many words, but maybe one last word. I'm a strong believer in this whole flexibilization, more agile setup. I'm a strong believer also that the managers also need to change quite heavily, I have to say. I would just like to invite every manager, don't be shy to try it. You will get so much back if you're really doing it and showing the team that you are also not one guy who is only connected to hierarchy. So it
Brilliant.
gives you a lot back.
Yep. That's fantastic advice. I hope a lot of managers in Deutsche Telekom listen to you, Dirk.
Yeah. You know my
Thank you very
number.
much.
You know my number.
Well, more important, they know your number.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dirk. Thank you for your time.
Welcome. Welcome.
Um,
It was very fun.
great, great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And dear audience, that was it. So there you had some stories, some experience from Dirk Maul, and I hope you enjoyed the interview. And we look forward to the next one. Have a good day. Cheers. Bye.